I get this question sometimes in my counseling sessions that, hey, maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's not that everybody out there is an asshole and aggressive. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the mean-spirited one. Let me start this video off by saying that whenever you feel self-doubt or doubt in yourself, be very aware of where that's coming from. Is it coming from a person that's instilling that feeling of self-doubt in you? And always remember that there are these two big forces that play out in our mind, in our life, and those things are self-doubt versus self-belief. And always be very mindful and careful of the things, the people, the music, the movies, the books, the YouTube videos, anything in your life that will make you doubt yourself, that will make you think that there might be something wrong with you. And always be aware and mindful of the things in life that instill self-belief in you. Usually the things, the people that instill a sense of self-belief in you are good. They're good sources for you. And those things that instill self-doubt are usually toxic. Because people who are generally good and healthy are focused on themselves and moving forward. They're focused on sharing health and love. And it's usually people who are trying to pull you down, who are trying to hurt you, who are jealous, who are going to be planting seeds of doubt in your mind because they are more likely than not afraid of you, and they are afraid that you are going to take what is theirs. And sadly, this is a human condition that we have had in us from hundreds of thousands of years ago, when the first tribes encountered each other on the plains and were shocked and terrified, excited, and in that moment when they would see each other on the plains for the first time, there would be excitement, there would be hope, but there would also be this doubt of, are these people going to try to take what I have? And that still exists today. We can see it all around us. People are afraid of the other person taking what they have, and the result is in a more aggressive society, more assholes than ever before, more mean-spirited people than ever before. And when we have leadership like we do right now, not just here in the United States where I live, but around the world, we're seeing similar kinds of leadership, aggressive, strong men. Sadly, when we see that type of leadership, it normalizes and it makes us feel that this aggressive behavior is just the way it is. That's just life. Deal with it, man. Kill or be killed, right? Well, that's the world we used to live in. That's how the world used to be thousands of years ago. Raping, murdering, lying, stealing, doing anything to get ahead. Win at all costs. That's the world that we have come from, and the world that so many have sacrificed, so many people have died, given their lives for. So many people have worked so hard to educate and spread love and kindness and enlightenment. All that effort, all that sacrifice that's brought us to this world that we are here today, it's called evolution. We have evolved past being cavemen. We have evolved past taking, fighting, stealing. Win at all costs seems to be the motto of a lot of our leaders these days, whether it's China, the United States, Brazil. You're seeing these aggressive leaders in England, all over the world. We're seeing them. I would argue that this is a response to global crisis like the refugee crisis as a result of countries meddling in the Middle East, bombing, allowing conflict to take place, proxy wars, right? We don't want the wars here, so we find a battlefield like Syria and we don't care about all the people there. There's just incredible people in Syria, incredible people in Libya, incredible people all over the Middle East just being brutalized. And when you're firebombing and raping and pillaging and murdering people, they're going to flee. They're normal people like us, families, women, children, just people who want to earn a living. They're not going to stay in an environment like that. They're going to flee in the masses. And where are they going to go? As I explained in my last video, so many fled through Turkey into Europe, and cut a long story short, it creates this nationalistic response where countries want to seal their borders. And as I said in my last video, I empathize with that. I empathize with people who live in a country and then suddenly they're being flooded with refugees. It's no one's fault. It's a situation that should never have been created in the first place. But it creates this aggressive, fearful stance where people unfortunately become aggressive assholes. So when we see the normalization of that kind of behavior in our own leadership, here in this country, when our leader is being a complete asshole every single moment of the day, just being a troll, being mean-spirited, promoting this attitude of win at all costs, which is sadly, as I said, becoming normalized. And when one person does it, especially a leader at the top, when that person does it, other people will say, well, that person's doing it, so it's okay if I do it. And then if they do it, then more and more people say, well, he and she's being an asshole, I'll be an asshole. This is the new times we live in. No, of course it isn't. This is unfortunately the result of a lot of stupidity over the last 5 to 10 years, and I don't blame Trump for it. I blame Obama as well. I blame, I blame people that are not educated enough to understand that we are living in an interconnected world, whether you like it or not. Look at your phone, look at your technology, look at your leaf blower. There's this huge movement now, associated with this uneducated presidency that is against science and facts. Well, it's funny because if you're against science and facts, throw away your phone. Throw away your leaf blower. I live in a community that's very sympathetic to that type of behavior. And they're all we all use technology over here. Where do you think your leaf blower was manufactured? It was probably made in Germany if it's a still. If it's a Husqvarna, there's all these, throw away your guns. They love their guns. I own guns. I have nothing against them, but guns are technology, isn't it? Scientists created those things. Throw away your car, throw away your computers. Let's see how far you're going to get. So it's just madness. It's a lack of education, or at its worst, it's just trolling, right? It's just being mean-spirited, or I think a better way to explain it is pain-spirited. It's when you're hurting, when your life sucks, and you have nothing to lose, and misery wants company. Well, my life sucks, everybody else's life should suck. Hey, let's all band together, those of us who are unhappy and miserable. By the way, history repeats itself. And what's going on right now with this movement, and it's dying, fortunately, as we can see. It's being defeated by nature. Nature has come up and said, this cannot continue. If anything, Trump is going to be defeated by a virus, by nature. So without getting too sidetracked over here, I just want to go back to the core of this video, which is if you think you're an asshole, or if you think you're a mean-spirited person and you're doubting yourself, or if you're just feeling that like the world is full of aggressive behavior, aggressive people, well, why are people so aggressive? Always understand that the strongest people, just like the biggest dogs, are calm and kind. They don't bark. The biggest dogs don't bark. It's the small dogs that bark the most. It's the Chihuahuas. They bark. They're the loudest. The Trumps of this world will say that they're the silent majority. And it's the complete opposite. They're the vocal, loud minority. They're the Chihuahuas that are barking loudly because they're afraid. And I don't put them down either because they've been neglected. And this country, the leadership of this country should be looking out for everyone. Everyone. And those communities now who are angry and aggressive and mean-spirited and trolling and uneducated reminds me of where my mom has come from. Iran. What happened in Iran? There was a quick history lesson is that it was a great country at one point. There was the Shah of Iran, and what happened? It got taken over by a revolution, and the revolution took advantage of the poor, the uneducated, the extremely religious and extremely patriotic. And everyone else left Iran, fled Iran. And all that was left in Iran was the uneducated, the poor, the overly patriotic. You can say patriotic, but I wouldn't even say that they're patriotic at all. They're just tribal and extremely religious. I have nothing against patriotism. I'm extremely patriot. I love this country. I will argue always, I grew up listening to heavy metal and alternative music, and I always had issues with one of my favorite bands to this day, Rage Against the Machine, who would always be putting America down, and I would always be thinking, well, hey, you guys are American too, and you're making America awesome. So rather than putting America down, why don't we put down the elements that are making this country weak, right? But anyway, I just want to focus more on why people are overly aggressive. See, these words, we can interchange them. You could say asshole, you could say mean-spirited, but out of all of them, I like the word aggressive the most. And aggressiveness comes from fear. It comes from insecurity. It comes from when you actually aren't able to back something up. You're going to use intimidation to defend yourself, which we will see that in nature. You'll see it all around nature, in interesting and really cool ways too. A peacock, for example, will spread its feathers out, and it's scary, to an animal that only sees black and white. Those peacock feathers look like eyes. When they suddenly come out, and you've got all these big eyes shaking and looking at you, it's a defense mechanism because the peacock is weak. What's it going to do? It can't do anything. It's going to get eaten up. It's the same with scorpions, as I mentioned in my last video. They look and they behave in an aggressive way, the same as snakes, but they're actually weak. Like snakes, I live here where there's rattlesnakes everywhere. I see them almost every day. I saw one a couple of days ago, a huge rattlesnake. Took a photo of it, put it on my Instagram, but rattlesnakes are terrified of humans because they don't have arms, they don't have legs. All they are is a body and a head, right? So they have a rattle to scare things away when they feel threatened, right? Same as scorpions, they have a tough, scary, intimidating exoskeleton, and they have their stinger because on the inside they're soft. They don't have a skeleton. They are soft on the inside. So there's fear. There's a lot of, this is all from fear. And fear usually comes from weakness. So 9 times out of 10, when you stand up against a bully, they will eventually realize this isn't worth it, and you will realize that all that was bugging you, creating the intimidation, was just fear. It was just a tactic. It's a survival mechanism that they have that compensates for their lack of true strength. As I said, true strength, like a big dog. Big dogs are usually very calm. And if you hear a big dog bark, you're going to really be scared. And they usually aren't going to bark even. They're just going to, you're just going to feel the bite. So understand that first and foremost, okay, that that's going on. Now, the second thing I want to talk about that I hope will help you if you are thinking that, hey, am I an asshole? Am I mean-spirited? Or is this person an asshole? Or is my brother an asshole? Is my father an asshole? Which that's unfortunately very, very common, having an asshole father. So common, in fact, that George Lucas beautifully depicted it in Star Wars with the biggest asshole father of them all in Darth Vader, right? So if you have an asshole father and you feel like it's just you, don't think that. It's such a common thing, unfortunately, that Star Wars, one of the biggest grossing, shows, movies of all time, talks about that, where Luke tries to save his father, right, from the dark side, to bring him into the Force, or bring him into the light. And it's kind of like a nice thing at the very end. His father, just on his deathbed, goes from being an asshole to being who he truly is, who we all truly are. Even, unfortunately, Mr. Trump truly is. Just a person who wants love. We all just want love. Unfortunately, not all of us have been well educated, and it goes back to our parents. It goes back to Donald Trump's parents, his father. It goes back to all of us who have had difficult asshole fathers, like myself. I've experienced that, unfortunately, as well. And it's not their fault. It's their father. Their father raised them that way. And it's their father's father who raised them that way. And it's because the world was a tough, hard place. But our world is evolving. We do not live in the 30s and 40s anymore. And people who are still, see, the Trump generation, they grew up on movies like The Godfather, and they worship that type of mentality and behavior. But that movie, first of all, is a movie. They're acting and they're behaving like characters in a movie, acting all tough and badass and this and that. Yes, it's a great movie, but it's a movie. It's not reality. And not only is it a movie, but it was set in the, well, what was it set? Like in the 40s, right? In the 40s and the 50s, long time ago. We're in 2020. we have come a long way. We have evolved a lot. So there are those old elements that were raised by even older elements that linger today and are trying to influence things today. Sorry about that. I had someone at my door. So understanding that when we do have like these aggressive old school, they're just old. It's just old mentality, leadership. Understanding why it's what they're used to, it's what they're comfortable with. So they're trying to make the world into what they feel comfortable with. They're trying to create an environment where they are able to excel and thrive. But what they're doing is they're taking us backwards in time, whereas we have actually moved so much more forward, and they're just not comfortable with it. For example, someone like a Trump, he just doesn't use computers. He's openly talks about, does everything on paper, and hey, get with the times. We're like steam rolling ahead, and the people that Trump is mostly appealing to and connecting with are similar to him. They're unfortunately being left behind and forgotten by the times. Where I live, it's a huge community like that. And so I live in the mountains. I live in the middle of nowhere, but the town where I would drive to is more. There's a lot of sympathetic people with our current leadership. Fortunately, they're dwindling, and they're waking up, and they're starting to see like where the problems lie. But the reason why is because they're angry and they're being left behind. They're being left behind by technology. The technology is moving forward and leaving them all behind, right? And that's not right either. They shouldn't be left behind. They should be cared about. Whoever's leading this country should be thinking, caring about everyone, bringing everyone up together. Otherwise, that's when we're going to have problems like this. When you neglect a part of your body that's rotting and being left behind, it's going to make your entire body sick. You're going to die. I lived in England for 13 years. I grew up there from 1990 until 2003, and I was very fortunate to witness how Tony Blair at the time, Prime Minister of England, handled the Northern Ireland situation, because when I was living in London, we would have bomb scares where they would shut down all of London because there was an IRA bomb scare. The Irish Republican Army were fighting for independence and freedom, and they would put bombs in trash cans, and they would call and say, hey, there's a bomb in this trash can in Regent Street, and then the police would come, shut down the city, and get rid of the bomb and all of that. Now, this was a major problem for a very long time, and what I learned and liked about the leadership, the English leadership, was rather than trying to dominate and let's say decimate the IRA, wipe them out of the face of the earth, which I'll come to in a second, is impossible and only will make things worse. Rather than doing that, what they did was, very cleverly, they did the opposite. They gave Sinn Féin, they gave the IRA, they gave them a voice and a legitimate place in the parliament, and said, hey, rather than being this militaristic, combative element, let's talk. Let's give you a seat in the parliament, and let's have a voice, because you guys are representing a lot of people out there, and that's what Trump is doing. He's a voice for a lot of people out there. And you can say whatever you want, but those people exist, and we can't wipe them out. Okay, I've been training mixed martial arts for 10 years, MMA for 10 years, and I've had fights. I focused a lot on jiu-jitsu. I received my brown belt here in jiu-jitsu 2 years ago. I've been a brown belt for 2 years now. And unfortunately, it's a tough sport, and there's a lot of injuries, all kinds of injuries. And one of the worst injuries, or one of the worst things I encountered, was staph infections, which I have now long since overcome, and it's not a problem anymore. But while I was experiencing that, I cannot tell you how difficult it is, and the way. But I learned a lot from it, and what's going on with Trump is similar to that. There, and the people. When we try to silence, for example, let's go to the staph analogy, bacterial infections. How does staph come about anyway? Or there's the antibiotic resistant staph, because it starts off as normal bacteria. And then with antibiotics, we decimate, we try to smash it and eliminate it all. But we can't. And what will remain, maybe it's just 1% bacteria left, but that 1% becomes more vicious, more brutal, and it becomes antibiotic resistant. And then when that spreads, you're screwed, because now what are you going to do? It's the same with my land. I live on a big 13-acre land, and weeds are a huge problem. And if we smash all the weeds, if we decimate all the weeds with Roundup weed killer, well, the only weeds that are going to survive are the most vicious, brutal ones. And then what are you going to use to kill them? So what I learned with both those situations is that the way that we handle weeds is you grow more healthy plants that you want, and they're going to outcompete the weeds eventually, and that works. So rather than decimating all the weeds, I plant trees, I plant, bushes and flowers and plants that I like, and I plant them abundantly everywhere, and they just dominate, and then there's no more room for the weeds to grow. I selectively pick certain things over others, right? So I focus on love, not on hate, right? I focus on growing the love, on spreading what the goodness is. It's the same with the with anybody out there. Maybe I should title this video differently, or I need someone who can edit these videos and chop them up into relevant mini videos. But the way to handle antibiotic resistant bacteria, staph infections or whatever, is not by wiping it out with antibiotics, but instead by repopulating the good bacteria on your skin, which I did. And then when there's a lot more good bacteria all over your skin, it doesn't allow the good bacteria takes care of the bad. So it's only when we lose that natural, let's say, harmony and that balance, when the toxic elements arise and start to take over. And that's exactly what's going on with our world today. Why there are more assholes than ever before. Why there's more aggressive people than ever before. Because they've been neglected, and so they've been given this platform, this environment to spread and grow stronger. And B, we're attacking them rather than allowing them to have a voice. And it is a very difficult, complicated situation. But when the CNNs of the world are trying to put them down every day and smash them and decimate them, and the Don Lemons of the world want to eliminate people like that, that will only make them stronger and make them more aggressive. So the key, I believe, is like what Tony Blair's leadership did, was rather than being aggressive, give them a voice, listen to them, give them a platform. And I know it sounds risky, it sounds scary, but that's the way to deal with it. Really, like it does sound like to a lot of people will say, hey, it's naive, to be loving and kind. It's not. I mean, of course, you can't be an idiot. You've got to be smart. And if someone's taking advantage of a situation, you rise up and you fight. There is a time to fight. But a lot of our issues now have been created because of ignorance on both sides. So, lastly, what I want to say is, and I'm sorry that I've left this point for the end of the video, as I usually do in a lot of my videos. I leave a lot of the good stuff at the very end, and hopefully there will be people that have stayed to the end. I wish I put this at the beginning, is that you're not an asshole all the time. No one's an asshole all the time. The question is, how much of an asshole are you? Are you being an asshole every single minute of the day? Are you being an asshole maybe once a day? Did you do one thing in the day that you feel, oh, that was out of character for me, I was being mean-spirited and that's not really who I am? And the same goes with everybody around you. You might think that my father's an asshole, my friend's an asshole, this person's an asshole. Well, maybe they're just being aggressive, mean-spirited 20% of the time or 30% of the time. Or it could be that they are like that 100% of the time. But just be aware of that, okay? That you can't just say that, hey, he's an asshole, or she's an asshole, or I'm an asshole. You can't just blanket statement someone like that, because no one is going to be, very few people are going to be 100% of the time a certain thing. They're going to be, in certain moments, maybe like that. So be aware of that. So if you think you might be an asshole, well, think, hey, well, maybe everyone is a little bit sometimes and in certain situations, and that doesn't mean that they are all the time, right? Okay, so I hope this video helps, and if you have questions or comments or whatever, post them down below, and if they are interesting, cool, important questions, then I may do a video on it to reply. I have a Patreon page and I'm growing, I'm building that. Thank you to those of you who've been watching these videos for the last 4 years and subscribing and supporting this channel. And thank you especially to all my Patreon subscribers who are donating, supporting, helping. I'm currently raising money to improve my production here, to get a better camera, to get a better microphone, to edit my videos better. I do everything on just an old laptop here. I just sit in front of a window where the light is good, and I don't have a good microphone or anything like that. So thanks for your guys' patience, listening to these videos, and I know it's going to be a much more awesome experience once I get the production on these videos better. But for now, adios, peace, be strong, be kind. Our world is moving forward whether we like it or not, and don't worry about the screaming loud chihuahua, the big dog, silent big dogs, the silent majority. We know who we are. We're quiet, we're silent, but if you poke us too much, we'll get up and we'll smash what's going on right now. It's not a problem. Unfortunately, history has repeated itself in World War II, when evil pushed too far. They were smashed. If you look throughout history, evil is always smashed. Where we are today, people do not understand what an amazing world. People don't understand how lucky we are. All the things we have. We're so lucky. We're so spoiled in so many ways. We're so blessed. We're living an incredible life. People don't understand it, don't appreciate it. And we've gotten to this point because we don't want rape and murder. We don't want fighting. We don't want to live in a world that's full of lying and backstabbing and taking. And that's the world that Mr. Trump is taking us back to. We're not going to go back to that. Too much blood and sacrifice has been made. We've been through that. He's a lightweight compared to the titans of dictators that have come before him, the Genghis Khans of the world. The list is endless. He's a wannabe. He's, at the end of the day, he just cares about ratings. Bless his soul. He's just an actor wannabe. You know, he just wants to be on TV. He just wants to be famous. He wants to be loved. So let's all band together and let's move forward. And let's not forget our brothers and sisters. Let's not forget all of us. We've got to go all together. We cannot ignore the Syrians. Look what happened to our world with the refugees, and then countries becoming nationalistic and closing up their borders and becoming more racist, let's say. We cannot neglect each other. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. And the planet Earth, has reminded us of that fact with the coronavirus. It said, you are all human, and you are all able to get sick from a virus. You are all dependent on each other, whether you like it or not. So what should you go and do is keep yourself powerful, keep yourself wise. Don't allow self-doubt. Strengthen your self-belief. And if you feel you're in a toxic environment, just like I felt like I was, and for the last year in a gym that doesn't feel like good to me, well, leave. Find a better environment. Find an environment where you feel that you can thrive in. Make the necessary changes. All right? Adios for now.